Nothing compares to cooking meat outside on an open fire, but on the days that I can't do that, cooking these ribs in my oven by baking them is completely satisfying. I'm going to show you how to get them very juicy and tender and how to doctor up a store-bought barbecue sauce to make it even more delicious. So let's get to cooking. I have two slabs of ribs, each about 4 pounds, and the cost was $5.99 per pound, but I bought them buy one, get one free, so I paid about $3 per pound. I'm using a few basic seasonings, including liquid smoke, onion powder, cumin, and this garden vegetable seasoning that includes a few good seasonings, and cayenne pepper and minced garlic, and a mixture of coconut palm sugar or brown sugar and smoked sea salt. 1/3 cup brown sugar with 2 teaspoons of salt. And then I have Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce, and I have pineapple slices and 100% pineapple juice and pineapple slices and heavy syrup. There is a difference in the carbs and sugar section as you see. So if you're counting your carbs or going keto, then you definitely want to pay attention to that. Next up, I am washing my meat off. So I'm cutting it open in the sink because you'll notice there's quite a bit of liquid in the packet that the ribs come in. So I'm giving them a quick rinse and then pouring out that reddish liquid that settles in the pack. I like using these oven bags to store my meat in as I am letting it marinate. And then I put my clean meat on a cutting board and I'm just cutting off the fat off of the back side with a paring knife. A paring knife is kind of small, so I'm using that to cut the fat off. And then you can use a paring knife or a butter knife to slide under the bone portion between the bone and the membrane of the back side of the rib to cut a slit in the membrane to pull it off easily with a paper towel. You can use a paper towel or a clean kitchen towel. It just needs to be very dry. That's the reason I use that instead of just trying to use my wet hand. It comes off much easier with a dry towel and just pull it off. Usually you can get it off in 2 or 3 pulls. Now I'm seasoning my meat with the seasonings that I showed you previously. You just want to spread the seasoning on in an even coat and rub it into the meat. And you want to be sure to rub your seasoning in on both sides. This is another reason to remove the membrane. It'll make the meat more tender and let you get seasoning directly on the meat. Next up, I'm going to make sure that I get the seasoning on both sides, including the minced garlic and the salt sugar mixture. Just rub that in carefully to both sides. Some people use only a dry rub with their ribs, and you can certainly do that if you prefer. I'm putting my seasoned meat in the plastic bag inside of my bowl so I can let it marinate for several hours, if not overnight. I'm adding some of this pineapple juice to make the marinade liquid as well, and I did put in the remaining bit of my sugar and salt mixture so you can see the marinade is still in the bag and won't get my bowl as dirty. So now that my meat has marinated for several hours, I am now ready to cook it in the oven, and I have the pineapple rings and some fresh onion that I chopped up that will go inside of my baking pan. So I'm just layering the bottom with some of the onions and pineapple, and then I'm putting the meat on top of it. And I'm also going to put some onions and pineapple on top. So the meat will release liquid, the onions will release juice as well, and that will keep this meat very flavorful and moist and juicy as it cooks. I also have this last bottle of apple juice in my refrigerator, so I'm just going to pour that in as well. Orange juice would be good. Dr. Pepper, Coca-Cola, any sweet soda would work as well. So you don't need a lot of liquid either. I just had that one bottle of juice. Now I'm putting foil on top and I'm making sure that it's sealed carefully all around. And I am cooking this on 250 degrees. I cook these low and slow so you can see what it looks like after 2 hours of baking in the oven. It is cooking, but you'll notice the meat isn't pulling away from the bone as we want it to be before we eat it. And I'm using my turkey baster to get some of the pan juices to spread on top to help keep it moist and juicy. And then I put it back in the oven to cook for 2 more hours at 250 degrees, still covered in the foil. I'm adding the heavy syrup pineapple juice to a saucepan to let that cook for several minutes to reduce down. Added about 2 cups of Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce to the pineapple syrup, and I'm going to stir this and let it reduce down even further. I turned the heat down to medium, and I'm just going to keep an eye on it to make sure none of the sugars burn. And look at this meat. Now, it doesn't look so appetizing without the sauce on it, but I am just going ahead and pulling the bones out to verify the tenderness is where I want it with the meat falling off the bone. After about 15 minutes, or so, the barbecue sauce and heavy syrup has reduced down to the consistency that I like. If you want to add additional seasonings to your barbecue sauce, you absolutely can, but this Sweet Baby Ray's is yummy enough for me already. So I just pour that on top of my ribs and I am spreading it out. Notice that I do have quite a bit of liquid still in the pan. This doesn't bother me. I don't need to get the sauce on the underside as well. When I cut it up and serve it, there will be enough sauce on the bottom for my liking. After putting the sauce on the ribs, I put them back in the oven at 400 degrees for about 10 or 15 minutes to let the sauce caramelize a little on the top. Before adding the sauce, check the tenderness of your meat. Instead of 4 hours, yours might need to cook for a total of 5 hours. It just depends on your oven and the temperature that it actually holds. I make my pineapple and onion barbecue sauce ribs often, and I like to cook them until the bone slides out easily from the meat. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel